This status is in line with the expected results capturing process. It is estimated that almost 90 to 95% of the results will be finalized at least by late evening today. The balance would take another 24 hours to complete, given the situation here in Limpopo, with the fact that in some areas connectivity is quite poor. Musina has completed 95% of its result, followed by Vela Vela at 94%, and in third position Musina had completed 95% of its result, followed by Vela Vela at 93%, and in third position is Modimolle Mokgopong at 80%. The common factor about these three municipalities are that they are the smallest in Limpopo province. The rest of the municipalities' completion rate ranges between 0 and 64%. Why do you have 0? The reason why we have 0 is because in Bapalaburwa municipality we had delays given the problems of connectivity to the server. They only started a few minutes ago to start capturing their results. The results capturing involves a number of processes, including the verification of the result slip, the capturing, scanning, and the auditing of the results. An independent audit firm has been procured for purposes of auditing the result. Now the voter turnout. The Commission would like to call upon all leaders of political parties to act and speak responsibly as the results collation process unfolds. As you will recall, the Commission had anticipated the prospect of a lower voter turnout already in July and approached the Constitutional Court. Nonetheless, the Commission implemented an extensive education and communication campaign to ensure that voters turn out to vote. This included educational programs that assured voters that it will be safe to be at a voting station during the COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, it is important to realize that voter turnout is a multifaceted phenomenon influenced by different factors as per the research of the HSRC. Some of the elements that motivate voters to participate relates to factors outside of the Commission, such as disruptions to service delivery protests, for example, here in Limpopo, including people not happy with the demarcation outcomes, levels of trust in political institutions, regrettably, unwarranted attacks on the Commission could potentially also influence the voter turnout. In the analysis of voter turnout, the COVID context in which the election happened should not be forgotten. The national message has been that people must not be in congregate environment. By last night, of the total over 26 million registered voters nationally, over 10 million had participated, making a voter turnout of 41.27% nationally. For Limpopo, of the 2.585 million voters that are registered, only 1.1 million people had participated, and the voter turnout for Limpopo is 42.9%. Now we move to the VMD, the voter management device. The Commission believes that the voter management devices were the mainstay equipment for this election. These devices have ensured that we continue to meet the Constitutional Court requirements that voters only vote in the wards in which they are registered, and that every voter must have an address on the voter's roll. As of yesterday, when voting stations closed, the voter management device had processed 1.186 million voters. Some of them were processed but were not allowed to vote simply because they were not expected to participate in that particular ward. This means that we have confidence that these voters that were processed positively voted in the wards in which they are ordinarily resident. And the only way that we could determine whether you reside in that ward is through your address. This is an important control measure in a local government election, simply because I cannot influence the outcome of Ward 20 when I reside in Ward 21. Over the election period, a total of 45,827 additional addresses were included on the voters' roll from voters who previously did not have an address. Limpopo currently has just over 86,000 voters without addresses. This is an improvement from over 1 million voters that did not have an address since 2003 here in Limpopo province. So really this is a substantial improvement on addresses. People who are in wards belong there simply because the majority of them have addresses. Then the issue of disenfranchisement of voters in Limpopo, we have experienced several complaints around voters who were turned away simply because their names were not could not be detected on the VMD. In our case, there were a total of 18,403 voters who were not on the certified segment of the voters' roll simply because of the short period between the registration weekend and the certification of the voters' roll. You will recall that the certification of the voters' roll happened a day after registration weekend. So for some reason, more than 18,000 people were missed. So as a result, the Commission decided to include these people on a pre-approved MEC 7 list. So we had here in Limpopo more than 18,000 people on this pre-approved list of MEC 7 cases. And this list was also linked to the more than 4,000 voter management devices that are allocated to Limpopo. Of these 18,403 voters that were on this MEC 7 list, 9,339 of these voters voted yesterday in their correct voting station. So in other words, almost, I think more than 50% of these voters who were not on the voters' roll but were on the pre-approved list of voters eventually participated yesterday. The following incidences were reported between last night and this morning. The first incident happened in Blowback municipality. In the early hours of this morning, materials were being rolled back from the municipal office to the storage place, which we normally called a warehouse in Blowback. When accidentally some of the boxes containing cancelled ballots from an unsuitable transport, so these ballots, these spoiled ballots or cancelled ballots, fell from an unsuitable transport. And the reason why I'm saying this transport that was being used is unsuitable is because we normally have specifications on the kind of transport that should be utilized. And normally traffic officers do check all the transportation that will be used to transport our material. So in this case, it was an open truck, and it did not have a canopy on it, and some of these cancelled ballots fell from that particular truck. Unfortunately, at that stage, some political party agents were at the scene, and they took videos that are trending currently in the social media, and eventually the very same party agent submitted a complaint letter to the IEC. So this complaint letter is being addressed because we are investigating the circumstances that led to this particular matter. The second incident happened in Lephalale local municipality in ward number 3. The name of the voting station is called Mamujela Park. In this case, counting proceeded, and when the result slip was concluded, political party agents did not agree to the final results from the counting officers and demanded a recount. You will recall that a recount normally requires permission from the commission, and you need to motivate why you need to do a recount, because this counting was done in front of these party agents, and eventually they did not want to sign the result slip. They demanded a recount. It's quite disappointing that people who are agents who were there witnessed everything. Eventually they did not want to sign the result slip. In conclusion, the threats of ESCOM for load shedding, fortunately here at the Provincial Results Center, we have generators that will kick in case load shedding is being rolled out later today or in the early evening. I think we are going to spend the whole night here. We pray that load shedding does not happen. The question is, what happens to our local offices where they do not have generators? Our local officials have been instructed to ensure that their laptops are fully charged, and we also have routers that we will use in case of load shedding and when everything else fails. And we also have standby lights that will be switched on so that the process of results capturing and scanning proceeds without interruption. Hereby, I conclude this media briefing. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramaphosa.
Thank you, PO. Let me allow colleagues from the media to pose questions and the clarity where is needed. By show of hand, can I see those who want to ask questions? Oh, Bobodi. The other one?
We only have one question from Limpopo.
Thank you so much, Rotan Bobodi, SABC. My question is based on a complaint that was launched by an independent candidate councillor and Palaura municipality, accusing IEC officials of vote rigging and tearing of and banning of some ballot papers. I just want to know if the provincial electoral officer has learned about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me allow the PO to respond to your question.
Well, the only objection that we are aware of from Bapalaburwa relates to a DA candidate that is being investigated currently, who indicated that the number of spoiled ballots were just too many. One of the reasons is because the presiding officer decided that the people who used a different kind of a pen, their votes will not be counted. So this matter is being investigated because yesterday we announced that if you do not trust that the pens that are going to be sanitized when voting, you can bring your own pen, irrespective of the color of that pen. As long as your marking is correct, that vote will be counted. So this kind of an objection is equivalent to a Section 65 objection that is material to the announcement of the results. As a result, it has been referred to the Commission. I must say, SABC, that we have been tested to the limit during these elections. People have put threats on us, including the fact that during the special vote in Leboa-Khomo, the party agents that were at the voting station transported our ballot boxes to our warehouse in Leboa-Khomo, and when they arrived there, they started to make noise simply because the presiding officer made an error of not marking one of the boxes. But the seal on that box identified and linked that box to that particular voting station. There was drama and chaos. People were taking videos that IEC has several boxes that are not marked. People exaggerate simply because they want to create mistrust in the Commission. Similarly, with this banning of ballots, normally after elections, all our ballots are rolled back to the provincial warehouse, and we are, by law, we should keep them for more than 6 months if possible, because objections can happen anytime. If an objection is missed by the Commission now, somebody objects 2 months or 3 months later, that requires that we should open the box. Those boxes have to be intact. So we do not dump our boxes at the dumping site. This morning, my colleague in the Western Cape was reporting that people, I don't know how they got hold of the boxes that were used in 2019. This year, the CEO decided to change the color of the boxes. There was a red line on the boxes that were used for this year's elections, so to distinguish them from 2019. So somebody with sinister motives then got hold of the 2019 ballots and made noise that the IEC has dumped the ballot papers on at the dumping site. We do not dump ballots, we keep them for 6 months in case there are objections, and then thereafter they are properly handled. There is a service provider who will simply recycle those ballots. We do not dump ballot boxes. So really, although we are not aware of this situation, this is the procedure we normally follow after voting. All of them will converge at the provincial warehouse and be kept there until no objections are raised against the outcome of the 2021 local government elections. That was the only question. Unless if there are further questions, I think we are done. Oh, I think there's...
Thank you. Mamuloko Matsimela, Capricorn FM News. My question is related to the independent candidates in the Bloemfontein municipality, the issue addressed earlier about improper transportation. The independent candidates in that area are claiming that those ballot boxes in fact were proper ones, and they are calling for a rerun in particular in Ward 7 and Ward 12 of blowback. Could this be a consideration, rerun of Ward 12 and 7? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bobori again. Yesterday there was an incident of an SABC crew, news crew, attacked in Talana. From there, a member of the African Freedom Party laid a criminal charge against an ANC member for allegedly disrupting the interview between him and the SABC. That happened within the vicinity of a voting station. Is the IEC aware of that? Has there been any official electoral violation charge laid?
Umpa Manager, Northern Media Group. I've been alerted of an incident in Ward 3, Monamole. I'm not sure if it was addressed earlier in the media briefing. I just wanted to confirm, in instances where ballot boxes are being quarantined for whatever reason, what is the process that follows after they have been quarantined? And how do you determine whether those votes will be counted and used in the election? Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the issue of the independent candidate, this sounds like a Section 65 objection, and this candidate is encouraged to submit his or her objection formally to the email objections@elections.org.za. Our evidence points to the fact that these were cancelled ballots. So if a voter arrives and makes a mistake, they approach the presiding officer that I've made a mistake, and then they are issued with another ballot. That one is cancelled and is labeled cancelled and is kept aside by the presiding officer and recorded. So if the independent candidate feels aggrieved, they must formally submit their objection to objections at the elections.org.za. And then the issue of the SABC crew that was attacked yesterday, and one of the politicians opened a case against them. We suspect that this case was opened with the South African police services, but like our commissioners apologized this morning, really our regulations are very, very clear about respect to the media during the elections. The media are accredited to cover elections and cover all stories pertaining to elections. So attack on the media is an attack on democracy. So we would never condone a situation where somebody disrupts an interview that is taking place within our facility. So we'll make a follow-up on this and just check what really happened, and perhaps consult the police to just check what really happened. It's against our code of conduct. Then the issue of Ward 3 in Mulamula and how we treat quarantined ballots. Yesterday there were several ballots that were quarantined. The first case involved the Mogalakwena municipality. The presiding officer administered ballots to voters in a ward. I think it was the swapping of Ward 26 and 28. So on top of that cover, the ballot, the cover was written Ward 26. What she did not do was to check whether indeed it's Ward 26. So she administered those ballots to the voters, and those were quarantined. Similarly, in Fetahomu, Tubanze, a similar incident happened. Those were quarantined. And then I imagine this Mulamula one involves the tribal office in Ramakgopa village. Those were also quarantined. Normally, these matters are referred to the commission to make a decision before we start counting on whether these boxes should be counted or should be set aside. So the 3 reports were submitted, and the commission had decided that all of them should be counted, simply because it was just not an error of the voters. The beauty about the Mogalakwena one was that these voters, the ballot paper, the word ballot for Ward 26 and 28 contained exactly the same political parties. There was no independent candidate. There were about 9, if I'm not mistaken, parties, exactly the same. It's just that the ordering might have been different, but exactly the same. So if I decide I wanted to vote for party whatever, even if the ballot paper was wrong, then my decision, my intention was to vote for that party. That was the decision that the commission took. And then the Fetahomu one, fortunately it happened during the special vote on Saturday. So it affected 5 voters. So the commission then decided that perhaps we should recall them on Sunday. Perhaps the team should go to those houses again, set aside those ones because these people voted on a wrong ballot, visit those homes, and those people were allowed to vote on Sunday. So the quarantined one eventually was not counted because those people were given a second opportunity because the mistake was from our side. The Butlokwa one involved just a terrible mistake. That presiding officer lost her job simply because of that. She took a decision to open a ballot box during voting, simply because a voter then said there was a mistake and, it's uncalled for, it's against our laws. The ballot box is only open during counting. You can't open it in the middle of voting. So the commission then weighed to say the mistake of just one voter against, let's say there were 1,500 people registered in that particular voting station. Should we throw away 1,500 votes simply because of one vote? Then really, if it's a ward, it makes a huge difference. Because if I lose with 1,500 votes, I might argue that those people were going to vote for me. And if you go to court, you might win. So hence, a decision was taken to count those ballots. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramaphosa. I've done all of this.
Thank you very much, Pio. On that note, we have come to an end of our media briefing. And let me take this opportunity to thank all media houses, political parties who took part in this media briefing. Thank you.
We're done this. Thank you.